Today's daf is daf nun dalid, and we're continuing discussing the oila. Also, it's done in the north, and all of his activities are done in the north. And we started talking about the yisoid, that this base is only found on two tire sides. The yisoid, the base, is on the west side facing the base of Migdash, on the north side facing where you do your shchita, and then only encroaches one amma. Out of the entire 32 amma length of the Mizbeach, only one amma on the eastern side has a yisoid, and only one amma on the southern side, which out of the 32 ammas, only one amma has a yisoid. And we explained the reason why is because the Mizbeach, if the buildings have to be on Binyamin's property, Yehuda has the courtyards and everything else, and since because Yehuda has a little bit of a strip there where the yisoid should have been, that's Yehuda's area, so we therefore left out the structure from that area.
What does the yisoid represent in that idea?
What do you mean?
What does the yisoid to
It's the base.
symbolize as being that is more partial than the other? What is what's it?
The Ruchen is getting on behind it. I don't know. We'll see in a minute about the ear rights. Okay, 1 second. But good point. 3 lines with Daf Nun Daled Amad Aleph. Today's Daf is Daf Nun Daled. 3 lines from the top. Mesa, I'm going to ask you a question. It says in the Braisa, Oila Sa'oiv. Remember, when it comes to a carbon oila, you normally do it on top of the red line, the dividing line. When it comes to an oila sa'oif, you do it on the bottom of the red line. When it comes to the chatzos of a behema, you do it on the bottom of the red line. But when it comes to 3 lines on top. But when it comes to chatzos sa'oif, you do it on the top of the red line. Says the Gemara, it may say oila sa'oif ketzad hayanasa. What did they do? Haya moilek esreisha memul erpam. They would go ahead and they would do malika. Malika is using the nail, the thumbnail of the koyin, and they do it from the back, not where the normal place where shchita takes place. Umavdil, and then they separate the neck. Umematze doma al kimas becher. Then they go ahead, instead of sprinkling and putting the keli, you sprinkle the finger, you squeeze the neck against the wall.
They don't actually capitate. They don't take the
No, they don't take it up. You split it open, and they exactly, and they squeeze it against the wall of the mizbech. Now, the problem is, where did they do the malika? On the southeastern corner. Again, you're walking upstairs. They went out, made a left. Instead of right, they made a left, and then right there on that southwestern corner is where they did the malika, which means that the blood then fell right down. But if there's no yisoid there, where did the blood end up? On the floor, in the ground. So says this is what Rashi learns the problem is. Now the answer, if you can tell me, why there's no yisoid on that side of the mizbeach, is ba'avida ba'alma dekavid. So what happened? It was suspended. They did the malika, and what happened to all the blood? It landed on the ground. It landed on the floor. It's a problem. Say, this is what they decided. Avida de Binyamin. The ear rights belong to Binyamin. Karka de Yehuda. The ground where the base was meant to be, that's Yehuda. But the ear itself is Binyamin. So how's that answer the question? The question, the way Rashi learned the question is what happened to the blood. So Rashi makes a big chiddush here. So what they did was, above the yisoid, they made a little plank sticking out, and that caught the blood. And there, it's in the air, and that's Binyamin's chelik. Yehuda only had the ground, so the yisoid didn't exist. But a bit above, that doesn't say how much higher, but a bit above, they built a belita from the mizbeach, and that caught the blood, and therefore there's no problem. That's Rashi's Kiddush. Rabbeinu Tam has a big problem with that. How come the Gemara never told us such a thing that you got to? And not only that, we have a thing called Hakor. You're not allowed to make any deviations in the base of Midrash. Suddenly, you built a new thing here, and then Tais has another question. And what's wrong if it falls on the ground? What do you think happens to all the blood?
We have the whole process how they wash the floor.
What happens to all the blood eventually is it goes into the ground and it gets lost. So it might not come in. It goes into your side of the mizbech, and then where's it go? It goes down into the ground. So what's wrong with directly the ground? What's the problem? So therefore, Taisus learns a whole different story. The main time learned the question was the malik itself. The malik is supposed to be in a holy part of the base of Mikdash. It seems, and the holy part means you did above the yisoid, wherever it is. But if there's no yisoid underneath, there's nothing holy. And the answer is no. The Avir belonged to Binyamin. The Avir was holy. Binyamin is the holy part. It was holy because the Avir is holy. The problem was not the blood. We don't care what happened to the blood. The problem is the Malika itself, the act of the Malika. That's what the main timelines. But yeah, big Chiddush and Rashi, they had a belita sticking out from the Mizbech, and then this has all other kind of questions. So what do you mean there's no Yisoid? That became the Yisoid. You tell me there's no Yisoid, you can't do the blood. Why not? You have a Yisoid, that little piece sticking out. Anyway, interesting. Now we have an interesting machlekes.
I don't get it. The Sefer Behemoth is lots and lots of blood coming out. You got to get flesh up.
We don't care about the other.
Like blood?
You squeeze. You squeeze.
You never read the shit of the chickens. That's blood.
Yeah, but you kiss down. There's something there. Now, we mentioned a few days ago that there's a machlekes, machlekes amaroim. What do you mean when you say there's no yisaid? There was no yisaid at all, or there was a yisaid but it had no kedusha? When you say there was no yisaid, what does it mean? The machlekes amaroim says the Gemara. My love yisaid. What do you mean love yisaid? Rav says bebinyan. There's no yisaid physically. And on the what do you call it? On the south and the east side, except the Amma on each side. And Levi Amma bit damim. It means that there's no yisaid for the blood. There was physically a base there. You needed a base for the structure, but they didn't place any blood there. And all of you remember we said that this has to do with Binyamin's Aviatrof. But Binyamin, stole he has the whole base of English. He devoured the base of English. How do you translate the word Binyamin Ze'ev Yitrof? So Rav Mitagim, Rav translated Ba'achsante in his area, in his section, Yitvana, they built Midbecha. That means the Mizbeach is only built on Binyamin's share. That means the part that was Yehuda, there was no building, no Yisoid. Excuse me. Levi Mitagim Ba'achsante in his share of Yisrael, Yitvana Migdasha. They built the Kedusha. So there was a physical Yisai, but the Kedusha part of it, where they dropped the Damim, was only on Binyamin Sheh. Makim Kedusha Damim. So now we're going to bring ayahs to each one. Toshma coming here. First we'll bring ayah to Rav. It says, it said the Yisai traveled the entire north side, 32 Amos. The entire west side, facing the base of English, 32 Amos. But it only consumed one Amma on each side. Klor. What? That there was no Yisaidah, like Rav. So it says Levi, my oichel nami b'damim. Oichel means it consumes blood, just like we're going to have in Chita tomorrow. Ma'acheles, Rashi says, why is the knife called ma'acheles? Because it eats the blood. There was a Yisaid, but oichel, eating the blood, is only an am on these two sides. Toshma, now we'll bring a raya to Levi. The Mizbeach was a square, 32 by 32. The Kevish, the ramp was 32 amas long, so total should have been 64. We'll soon see. Clear, it's a square. That means the side. Two of the sides was 30. If you were on the west side and you counted the length of the base of Migdash, or the width, it was 32 amas. If you were on the north side, 32 amas. That's all. The other two sides, it weren't. Coming here, it should have been 64 amas, right? If you combine the length of the Mizbeach and the length of the ramp is 64 amas. But actually, if you went from the beginning of the ramp and you went to the end of the Mizbeach, it was only 62. 2 amas got lost. Why would 2 amas get lost? Because the ramp was on a slope, and the ramp was high up, so it overlapped the Yisoid. That's 1 amma that they both shared together, and it overlapped the Seiviv. So 2 amas they both shared. So therefore, even though the kevish was 32 amas long, it was really only 30 amas protruding from the mizbech. The other 2 amas, the last 2 amas, exactly overlapped the mizbech. Clearly, that there was an amma for your side. And remember, where's the ramp? On the south side, right? You walk up on your left side, there was a ramp. So the ramp, the Yisai clearly was there on the left side. Araya to Levi. No, clear that what there was Yisai. Aim connected Amma Yisai, but Yisai should have been the Alama Seiv, and the Seiv is there. Not that so there's no raya from there. Rab says it means it should have been a Yisai, but it wasn't the place. First we're coming here. The Tony Levi learned Ketzad Bayis Mizbeach. How do you build a Mizbeach? This is how they build a Mizbeach. Maybe, and this is how they built it. Maybe they bought a mold that was 32 by 30. They used planks of wood, right? They used planks of wood and they put together. There was a space inside of 32 by 32 cross section. The Goiveya Amma, and it was raised 1 amma high. The planks of wood we put on the side was 1 amma high. So they used that as their mold, and within that they filled it with stones and everything else. Or maybe they brought chaluke avonim, they brought smooth stones, mifulamas that are moist, and ben gedolas, ben talis. I don't care the size of the stones, but there'll be a lot of gaps. Or maybe seat. Then they brought lime, the kunya, and melted the lead, the zephys, and tar or pitch. Umemache, they would melt it all down together, and then v'sheifach, they would pour it over the rocks, and that filled all the gaps.
It would have been lead because it is the Lashon of Alay and Basel. That is a metal.
Yeah, no, so they melted it.
And it hardens it.
No, look about you're not allowed to cut with a knife. And that's what it is. You're not allowed to cut a knife. You're not allowed to cut the stone.
In the Avnei Mizbeach with
Yeah, but you're not allowed to cut any part of the son of the mouth. You're not putting any metal, anything. And lead is not barzel, and they melted it.
because always there was any metal.
Lead is
No, lead.
metal. Melts like aluminum.
Yeah, but it's not a metal. It's not.
Yeah, but I guess maybe it doesn't come under the gather of barzel, and it's not. And v'zeu mokum yisoid. So that was the first. So that thing was the yisoid. Remember, raise an amma. Then the chayzer maybe malbin shloshim hours. Now, once that settled in, they brought another form that was now an amma shrunk on both sides because he went in an amma. So now it's 30 by 30. The goy v'chamesh is 5 ammas high. So already the mizbeach is 6 ammas high, right? The am of the yisoid and 5 of the wall. Or maybe they do the same thing again. Maybe chaluk yavanim, the same process. And then the chayzer maybe malben shuchav ches amma. Now they bring another an amma in, which we'll call the seviv, the perimeter. So now the top part, which is 3 ammas, the goy the gimel amma 3 ammas high, you have now this perimeter. You can walk around. And in fact, we'll have a whole gemachlekes the gemara later if you're allowed to put a fireplace on this perimeter. So they have kedusha mamash of the mizbech. It's like a roof of a low part of mizbech. You can make a maracha there. Or maybe chaluka, you bring in the whole process again, the stones. But who makim maracha? Now that you've filled it up, that becomes now the roof of the mizbech. So now how high is the mizbech? Now 9 amas. An am of yisoid, 5 is there is 6. Then 3 above the seviv. There's 9 amas. And now remember, the chut hasikra was not the seviv. The chut hasikra is right in the midpoint, which is an amma below the seviv. The seviv was 6 amas high, but the chut hasikra was actually 5 amas high, and this is important. Anyway, run time. Maybe malba. Now you bring another form, which is an amal amma, and you do 4 of them to build your kronos. Maybe maybe that's the cord. So they projected from they made a projection from every part of the Bech. They made these corners or these corners, and each corner was 1 amma by 1 amma. So they made a small little malba, a small little form, and they filled it again. What do you see clearly from here? That it was a square. I find it a little bit hard to understand Gemara's question. Because who said this? Levi. Levi's the one who holds that there was a yesod. No, Levi holds it was a yesod, but it wasn't kaddish. And you bring a raya that Levi is right from a brayso that Levi learned. V'chein Tony Levi. So I don't know. You can ask a question like that. Says the Gemara. V'chi tema. So if you're gonna want to answer me, the guy is Levi. You want to answer me what? No. What's the problem? That maybe they made this whole yesod, right? They have all these stones, and then they cut the amma of that that's encroaching in Yehuda's territory. They cut it off afterwards. So it can't be avonim shleimus ksiv. It says that you need in the pasuk you have to be whole stones. It has to be smooth, and there should be any pegimus in the stone. And if you're going to cut the stones down, it'll be pegimus. Tesa says, I don't understand. Why is he going to ask a better question? Like son of Elaine Basel, like you just raised. What do you mean you cut the stones down? You're not allowed to. So then Taisa says, he has a whole discussion, very interesting, if the Shamir existed in the second base of Mikdash or not. Taisa asked, why didn't they, to Taisa's answer, and that Taisa answers, the Gemara asked one question, this question, that question. The idea is the same thing, that you can't give me such an answer. But why didn't they use a Shamir? Why can't it be they filled it with stones and had the Shamir who cut it out? So then Taisa wants to say that perhaps the Shamir it makes it smooth. Shamir makes it smooth, but it's not shlemus. The Shamir makes it that you didn't put a barzel on it, right? The Shamir cuts open the Avnei 8 foot, whatever it is, but it's not. Remember, a pegima has to be that if your nail gets stuck, that's considered a pegima raise, not good. Who said the Shamir made it that smooth that a nail can't get stuck? That's what Taisa wants to say. And then Taisa's not happy with that, and he remains with Tzorechid. And actually, the Taisa in a few other places we have a discussion whether the Shamir existed in the second base of Migdash or not. Taisa brings a whole bunch of ice, and this Taisa is that it did. One of them is the story of Dama ben Asina. They were trying to buy the Avnei Ephod, which means that what do you do with Avnei from the second base of Migdash? Unless they had a Shamir, because you can't do Betuch Chaysim and all that. Anyway, so the Gemara, Charai was square. More answers, no question. The Mach is medium Metuse v'Shakale. What they did was, in that section of the Yisoid, which is in Yehuda's area, they filled it with wood, a wooden plank, thick wooden plank, not just the outside of the form. The entire Amma of Yehuda's section, they put wood in there, and it held back the rocks. So the rocks were within the Mizbeach area itself, but not that Amma of the Yisoid. And then after everything dried, they just took it away. So there was no cutting stones. There was no problem. The stones were smooth and everything else. This was just holding their stones in place. For the time, and I'll prove it to you. But the late time, Rav Kahana said, "Avodim shel kronos chalulus hayu." Rav Kahana said that the stones in the keren, again a big machlekes Rashi and Teiza learn it, but Rashi learns that they made a few holes in the keren so that the blood of the chatas would fall inside. And how do there were holes in the because it says in Pasuk, the Navi says that later on, in Mashiach will come, you're going to attack the goyim, and the goyim, whatever, will fall apart. Umalu, and they will fill you kemizrak, like a keli, kizavi is just like the corners of mizbeach. There were holes, they were hollow that you can put the blood in. So the same thing over here. So how in the world did they have holes in there? You're not allowed, you filled with stones, and then what? You cut out holes. They must have filled it these holes. They filled it with wood or something, and all they did was after they were all dry, they pulled it out. So put something underneath, and they pulled it away. Dorash Rava Dashan Maidichsi. It says in Pasuk, Vayeler David Shmuel, that both David and Shmuel went together. Yeshuva, and they sat b'noyos b'Rama. They sat in this place called Noyos in Rama, and v'chi ma inyan Noyos etzer Rama. What in the world does Noyos have to do with Rama? There are two different places. The Rama is where Shmuel lived, and Noyos somewhere else. Elisha Yoshvin b'Rama. They were sitting in Rama, but Oiskin b'Noyos, talking about the most beautiful thing in the world, which is the Beis Hamikdash. What were they talking about? Amri, they said, we have to put on the map where exactly we're going to build the Beis Hamikdash. So they say, Ksiv, says, the Kamta of Lisa, it talks about if you have any shilas, you should go to the Sanhedrin, it says, the Kamta, the Elisa, you should go up. Elamokim, Melamich, Beis Hamikdash, Gavoya, Mekol Yisrael. It doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference where you live in Yisrael. It says if you're going to the Sanhedrin, it's the Kamta of Elisa. And Yisrael is higher than all other countries. This line here is not to get to the discussion. We're talking about within Yisrael, where should you build the Beis Hamikdash? And it says the Kamta of Elisa, so we need to find the highest point. They didn't know where is the highest point that you're going to build the Beis Hamikdash. I see Sefer Yehoshua. They decided to bring Sefer Yeshua. They didn't know about heart. They bring a Sefer Yeshua. And they wanted to study the boundaries of every single Shevet and work it out. The Kula, by all the Shvatim, it says, by Yeda, they had to go here. It was always going down. But Allah Hagvul, the Tayr Hagvul, it always says that they went up, they went down, they went up, they went down, they went up. You have the expression down, down, down. No, it's all those that were north from Yerushalayim, because Binyamin and Yehuda and Yerushalayim. So from Binyamin and onwards, all the time you're going down, 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 down. You're descending. But B'Shev Ben Yamin v'Olaksiv, but by Shev Ben Yamin, when it describes its property, it constantly says v'Olah, nowhere v'Yodah. So it must be in Shev Ben Yamin is the Beis Hamikdash, and within Shev Ben Yamin, you got to find the highest point. This is the place. Now let's find the highest point within Shev Ben Yamin. They wanted to build it in a place called Ein Eitam. They wanted to build it over there because that's the highest point of Yerushalayim. That was the highest point. And Rashi said some kind of a spring over there that was the highest point in the base. Yeah.
23 Amos below.
That's yeah. Siddur always talks about that. Yeah. So they wanted to build it there, but then they said it's the highest point. Then Amri, they said no, let's go a little bit down. Why? Let's not go to the very highest point. Let's go down a bit. Why? It says Bain Seifa Shachin. At the Abishter rests, we had it yesterday, the Abishter rests by Binyamin amongst the shoulders. No, not by the top of the head, but the shoulders. So we have to go down a bit. So in Yerushalayim, that's one reason why they did it. Another reason is Gemidi. We know that the Sanhedrin is Bechelka Yehuda. We know the Sanhedrin has to be in the Chelik of Yehuda. And we know, and why? Because it says that it has to be in the Chelik of Yehuda. And the Sanhedrin has to be near the base of English. If you're going to build it in this section called Ein Eitam, it's too far from the Lishchal Gaza. We need the Sanhedrin to be there. The Shechina Bechelka Binyamin. So Halacha ended up by Yehuda, the Shechina, the base of English by Binyamin, and they should be near each other. The I Madlina land, if we're going to raise it to that point of Ein Eitam, is Mispalik Tuva. It'll be far away. It'll be too far away. Is Mutav the Neitzibe Purta? Let's not find the highest point. Let's find a point a little bit lower. It says the bank Shachin, and therefore we'll build the base of English there. But that's right next to the tribe of Yehuda. We have it right now. As the Tzua went out of Yehuda and took a part of Mizbeach, so the Yehuda was mamish there, and that's where the Lishchal Gaza is, and that's where it should be. Valdova Zen is Kana. Before we go any further, this thing that Yerushalayim is the highest point and the base of Mikdash is the highest point. Everyone wants to understand. Actually, if you go today, you'll see that you have to go down the hill all the time to get there. So the Radvaz, who lived in Mitzrayim, 550 years ago, and he went there to throw a few times, has a beautiful tshuva on this. They asked him, what's pshat in the Gemara here? And he talks about then how they continued every time there was something here. First of all, he said they tried to undermine the Beis Hamikdash, and they dug. They couldn't stand the fact. Lahavdil by goyim, they always by us. Halach is that the shul should be the highest point. We learn from the Beis Hamikdash, the shul should be the highest point. And lahavdil by goyim, they wanted that their cloisters should be the highest point, and they couldn't stand the fact that the Beis Hamikdash. So they went and dug it down and down and down, and they filled other parts all around higher, so that everything should be higher than the Beis Hamikdash. It's back then, so who knows how many layers and layers and layers.
They built up the mountains outside.
Yeah, they built up mountains outside. Sorry? No, we're talking about Yerushalayim. Yeah, but because in Tanakh it says v'yara, so therefore we don't look. Yeah. So Sam Sefer says in the Tshuva that this is all ruchnius. But then he says another Tshuva, he says, I don't remember exactly, something about a circle. When you look at the world as a circle, you know what I mean? That just solves the middle of the world, and in Yerushalayim, he gives a whole mathematical explanation what it means. That we're judging the wrong, we're using the wrong prism to judge what exactly it means, the highest point. Others say it's ruchnius. No, but the Gemara is saying physically here.
Yeah, but physical is ruchnius.
Okay. So I think what about why Doigadami hate David so much? Doigadami is the one who, when David Hamelech fled from Shaul and he went to Noiv because he was starving and he asked him for some bread and water, and they gave it to him, and Doig went then to Masad and the entire city of Noiv was killed. What bothered Doig so much? It bothered him that David Hamelech had the schus to decide, who decided which the base of Mikdash was. It says in Pasuk, David Hamelech says, Kinas Beischa Achalasni. And you know why they hated me? Because they were jealous that I worked out your house, the Abish's house, the Beis Hamikdash, where exactly it should be. And apart from also the fact that I come from Moav, and they had a problem with that as well. Uksiv, and it says another passage, you should remember, Hashem David, Abish should remember David, all the tzaddahs that he had, that he swore to the Abish that Im Avei by Beisi, if I will come to my house, if I will go to sleep, if I will go put my eyelids are closed, until I find a place for the Abish, the Beis Hamikdash. And we heard it, and how did I figure it out? Through Ephrosa. Ephrosa, we know is Ephraim, which is Yeshua. But son of Mitzanu, and it says in the passage, Mitzanu is there. And we found it. Where is it? By the field of flowers. What does that mean? The Ephrosa is a Yeshua. We looked up Sefer Yeshua, and we figured out where the base of the Mikdash should be. They call him Ephraim because he comes from Ephraim. And Mitzanu, and we found where should the base of the Mikdash be? Bizdeyar. Now that's Binyamin. Binyamin's chelik was from Bizdeyar over to the Amagodl. So therefore,
Bizdeyar is the name of
the name of the place. Yeah. The Chsi Binyamin is the Ev Yitraf, and that was the chelik of Binyamin. Fascinating. So David did as much as he could for the Beis Hamikdash. He bought the place, he got the order and everything else. And the Eibush didn't let him go any further. Mishnah. Next Mishnah. Zivchei Shalmei Tzibur. They were still talking about Kodesh Kedoshim. The Zvachim of Shalmei Tzibur. Shalmei Tzibur is the carbon shlamim that you bring by in on Shavuos. The Ashamas and all the different Ashamas, the Elohein. And these are not kaparas. That's why it's a separate category. These are the Shamas. Asham Gezelis, from Chatz, it's not a kapara, and then Asham. The Asham Gezelis, right? It's somebody, what do you call it? Asham Gezelis is you swore that you didn't take anything, we had to, and then you made it that you lied, so you bring a carbon Asham. Asham Me'ilas, you used hektish money. Asham Shivcha Charufa, big machlekes to know what exactly Shivcha Charufa is. Whether Shivcha Charufa means a Shivcha Knanis who's married, we can't really say married, to an Eved Ivri, that's one day, which is, I think, exactly what Rashi says here. But the other day is Rabbi Kiva who says, no, a Shivcha Charufa is, if we have any places, is a Shivcha who's Chetzi Shivcha Chetzi Bes Choyden, who married an Eved Ivri. So she's half married to the Eved Ivri. It's more than just a shivcha. We had two balabatim and we had two owners, and one owner freed and one owner didn't. And we had in Gemara Babas Gimel how exactly it works. Or is it every second? So in other words, it's a shivcha Kananis to an Eved Ivri is nothing. It's not a marriage. It's a business. The owner owns it. He wants children. What's more about him? But this is Chetzi, Shivcha, Chetzi, Bes Choyden. So, the Bes Choyden part of the Choyden is Mamish married, and the other part is not. So, therefore, it involves more than just. So, she gets Malkas, and he has to bring a carbon. Asham Nazir, a Nazir became Tameh, brings an Asham. An Asham Mitzayra, a Mitzayra has to bring an Asham as well. And then Asham Tali, you're not even sure if you didn't have it. And again, the Asham by Asham Tali does not forgive you; it just holds back the Yisurin. In all these cases, Shchitas Mitzaf Yishat in the north, the Kibbutz Mechishadis, and the Mikabel blood and the Kleishadis, but Tzaf in the north, but Dam and Tarsh, Tematan, Shanabra. And you do again. You do sprinkle the two corners like the oila. So you do it with the Yisaidas. You do it on the the southwestern corner, because there's the Yisaid there, and you do it on the northeastern corner, because the Yisaid there, because they're two opposites. You cannot do it on the southwestern corner because there's no Yisaid there. On the you can't do the southeastern corner because there's no Yisaid. The in the Cholin Lifnim Naklaim, in the times of being Mishkan, you had to eat it inside the curtains, and the times of Beis Hamikdash inside the walls, because that's Kodesh Kedoshim. L'zich Kuna, the same thing we said before, only for the Scharim of Baikoin, not for in the Kavis, and the Cholmachel for any eating at all. The Yom
with anything else.
Exactly. And the Yom V'Laila, and the time is Ad Chatzais. Again, we're following Rabbi Elazar ben Azai all the time, that it's till Chatzais, that you're allowed to eat it. Okay, that's the Mishnah here.